How's that feel?
Well, so it's my graduation, not my last.
I don't mind if you take all three of my buddies.
Okay.
Yeah. Or for college graduation.
Okay, that goes.
Yeah. Or for high school. I will find one. He said, can I write to the kid? And I said, sure. So he did.
You get the kid? I don't think so. He's already pawing it off. Oh, there's somebody around, so I'm
Thank you,
See you later. It was pretty cold it was this morning. When we got back.
I got my beaker pen on.
I won't help you, I promise.
We'd like to welcome your parents, grandparents, and all our guests to the graduation exercises for the class of 2001. We would also like to give a special welcome to the first graders. They will be second graders next year. Let us all stand and say a pledge of allegiance and sing America. The graduation class of 2001 will now like to present a musical program.
that we'd like to sing is On My Graduation Day.
It was written by Mrs. Walker. On my graduation day, this is what I want to say. Mom and Dad, I thank you for all the help you gave and more. I am grateful to you both, and I love you so. In these halls I lived and learned, gave my best for all I earned. In these halls I loved and shared, and I learned to care. And my teachers, thank you too. I will always remember you. Thank you, Biko, for your rule. Last of all, I thank you, school. The last song we would like to sing is traditional in each graduation, the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance, pledge allegiance, pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, America, and to the republic for which it stands. One nation under God, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Should everyone be addressed as salutation? This is a very special day filled with hope and elation. Our work is done, our diploma is won, and this is our graduation. Thank you for coming and joining our celebration.
Mrs. Walker and graduates, thank you for that wonderful musical program you presented to us. I know how hard you've worked and practiced to make it the best it could possibly be, and it was absolutely wonderful. The words of the songs and your beautiful voices just fill our hearts with joy. On behalf of the teachers, the staff, and the board of directors of the Primary Day School, I welcome you all to this very special day, our graduation of the class of 2001. To the parents, grandparents, families, and guests, thank you for coming to share this very special day with us. Saying goodbye to all of you is very hard for me. 17 out of the 40 of you were in my pre-K class. I have watched you grow and learn over these 4 years, and I know all your teachers are as proud of you as I am. You've worked hard to accomplish so much. You have become good friends to one another while you have been at Primary Day. Those friendships will last as you go to your new schools, make new friends, and have new adventures. But you have that common bond that you will always share of learning the phonovisual chart together, singing songs at the Friday Bicos, learning the hundreds chart in math, and loving a bird named Bico. I want to read you a story by one of my favorite authors. His name is Arnold Lobel, and it's from a book called Mouse Tales, and it's about the very tall mouse and very short mouse. Once there was a very tall mouse and a very short mouse who were good friends. When they met, the very tall mouse would say, "Hello, very short mouse," and the very short mouse would say, "Hello, very tall mouse." The two friends would often take walks together. As they walked along, very tall mouse would say, "Hello, birds," and very short mouse would say, "Hello, bugs." When they passed by the garden, very tall mouse would say, "Hello, flowers." Very short mouse would say, "Hello, roots." When they passed by a house, very tall mouse would say, "Hello, roof," and very short mouse would say, "Hello, cellar." One day the two mice were caught in a storm. Very tall mouse said, "Hello, raindrops." Very short mouse said, "Hello, puddles." They ran indoors to get dry. "Hello, ceiling," said very tall mouse. "Hello, floor," said very short mouse. Soon the storm was over. The two friends ran to the window. Very tall mouse held very short mouse up to see. "Hello, rainbow," they both said together. Together you make a rainbow of talents, abilities, interests, and personalities. Each one of you is unique. Along your walk in life, you will encounter differences in each other because no two of you is alike. I hope you will always carry the memory of Bico's golden rule with you, that the way you treat others and your outlook toward them will influence how they treat you. You'll always either be very tall mouse or very short mouse, but remember, if you work together as they did, you can share opportunities. The song that Mrs. Walker wrote for the whole school called God's Rainbow tells that it's not just one color or one ability or one interest that makes a rainbow. If you work together, imagine what you can accomplish. During your years at Primary Day, your teachers and I have marveled at all of your accomplishments as we've watched you grow from year to year. Your growth has brought us great satisfaction and happiness. We know it's time to let you go. Come back to visit us often. Tell us about the work you're doing at your new schools, your new friends, the fun you're having, and what you can do better now that you're older. Remember that you're always part of the Primary Day family, and we love you. We will miss you, and God bless you, class of 2001. It's tradition at the Primary Day School that the graduating class gives a gift to the school in its graduates' honor. It's my pleasure to introduce Bonnie's mom, Mrs. Sue Seiler, and Elizabeth's mom, Mrs. Lise Bernhardt. and they will present the gift for your class.
Good morning, boys and girls. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I had to say that my last time up in front of everyone, I imagine, for quite a while. Mrs. Plum, on behalf of all the class of 2001, the children and the parents, we're very proud to present you a check for $2,405, far exceeding our goal. So this will go to pay for the carpenter to come in and install new bulletin boards throughout the school and a little extra lighting. And we want to especially thank Nina Witzenberg. Where's Nina? Thank you, Nina. She took a beautiful photograph of the whole class of 2001, which will become a permanent part of the main bulletin board right outside Mrs. Najeka's room. So, thank you.
Thank you so much.
So boys and girls, when you come back to visit BECO, make sure you look for your picture on the wall, okay?
Thank you so much. That's just a wonderful, wonderful opportunity for us to share the talents of our artists under the direction of Mrs. Harkins. So many people come to visit the school and remark about the wonderful, wonderful artwork that the children do. And thank you for sharing that with us. And we look forward to the bulletin boards being installed over the summer. I've been thinking a lot about the word history. It's the study of past events, a sequence of things that have happened. You might, graduates, call it social studies. That's things that you've been doing in your class. Did you know that you are part of history too? You did? So am I. All of us are. History can cover a long period of time or it can be a very short one. World history, the history of the United States, your family history, and the history of a school, like Primary Day. I asked Mrs. Crampton to be our speaker today to share some of the history of Primary Day with us. Mrs. Crampton?
Thank you, Mrs. Plum. This is quite an honor to be able to address a graduation class, and it's usually a president or dignitaries, but my only claim is my love of Primary Day of the children, and that I've been here for 40 years in September. So a little bit of history of the school. Primary Day School was started in 1944 to make use of the phonovisual method. That is what our school was based on. It was, and still is, the demonstration school for the phonovisual method. They met in Pierce Hall at 16th and Harvard Street down in Northwest Washington. After a while, that became too small, so they met at the Church of the Pilgrims in Georgetown. Then in 1954, a group of parents and teachers got together because the school had grown by leaps and bounds, and it was not nearly big enough. So two of the parents, Mr. and Mrs. Garvin Tankersley, offered 2 acres of their farm land way out River Road, which is where we are now. Now their farm was not a regular farm, it was an Arabian horse farm. Well, the 2 acres was accepted gratefully, and they started to build, and that it was great, and money was raised to build. It was finally completed in 1955, way out River Road. Now, at that time, there were just 6 classrooms and some offices. There were 2 kindergartens, 2 first, and 2 second grades, no pre-K. We had our BECO programs in what was a kindergarten room, and now it's the admissions office and Mrs. Najar's room. It was not large enough for parents to come, so they were not included. And we held our graduation exercises outside on the playground. Now, only once in those 12 years was there a prediction of rain, and we graduated from Holton Arms. And I recall, I at that time taught second grade in Mrs. Wells' class, and 2 or 3 of my boys in my class really grumbled. They didn't want to graduate from an all-girls school, but graduate they did, and all went well. Now, at that time, River Road was just a 2-lane highway, as it is when you go out just past the firehouse on the way to the village of Potomac, just on the way out there to the village. Now, the Tankersley farm, as I say, was an Arabian horse farm, and we had many shows there. We had rides, we had an auction to benefit the school. And as a side note, I remember one day looking up from my reading circle, and heavenly day, there was a horse peering at me over the azaleas in the front window. I guess he'd come down to see what was going on, or maybe how to spell the submarine spelling of oats. What do you think? Okay? Now, our library was in Mrs. Barker's room, so you know how far we've come. Now, in 1967, this auditorium was built, and a pre-class room was added where Mrs. Knisley and Legan teach today, so that parents could join us in all of our BECO programs, and we had a wonderful place to hold our graduation exercises. In 1989, our second pre-K room was added, along with a much-needed art, science, music, computer, and language art rooms, plus a math lab and new offices. Now let's talk about your 4 years here. I think that you are most fortunate that your parents opted to send you here to this wonderful school, but by the same token, we're fortunate to have been able to have you here to teach. Now, when you were in pre-K, you met all the cousins on the consonant chart. The quiet, the noisy, the singing, and the neighbors. You learned to print your name and the letters of the alphabet. You learned to write your numbers and to add. You learned geometric shapes. You learned to count to 10. You learned the days of the week and the months of the year. You picked your own pumpkin at a patch. You visited a fire station. You learned some facts about birds, amphibians, and dinosaurs. You learned to share, to take care of your belongings. You learned to play well with your friends. You watched a butterfly emerge from its chrysalis. Do you remember when you were first asked to go up on this stage and announce a program or a song, and you looked out at all these sea of faces that were looking only at you? It was awesome, right? But however, you did it, and you gained poise and confidence, and you learned to listen. Now in kindergarten, you reviewed all of your consonant chart. You learned to tap out the first and last sounds of a word. You tucked in the tree E and fish I vowel sounds. You wrote short stories about your cousins. You learned to read. You learned to add, subtract, count by 5s and 10s, and you did simple word problems. You learned your ordinal numbers, values of coins. You read a thermometer. You learned about communities and their helpers. You learned the properties of water. You had your Thanksgiving feast. You planted seeds, string beans. Well, I remember going in one of the rooms one day and I thought Jack would be coming down the beanstalk any minute. Then you learned about our southern neighbor, Mexico. You learned the customs, the songs, and the dances. You learned about 100 Spanish words, and you put on a wonderful Mexican program. And you learned to listen. Then you went to first grade. You learned all of the primary spellings on the vowel chart. You learned the 2 secrets on the consonant chart. You learned to detect how many sounds before and after a vowel. You added suffixes. You learned compound words. You became a member of the exclusive Mule U Club. You learned to write stories. You learned about punctuation marks. You learned to alphabetize, to regroup, place value. You learned the concept of 0 as a placeholder, linear measurements. You learned about money, telling time, and fractions. You learned about the solar system. You studied the human body and nutrition. You talked about the holidays around the world. And you became actors and actresses. Why, you even painted your own scenery. You received certificates for physical fitness. You worked with computers, and you learned to listen. In second grade, you learned all of the submarine spellings of the vowel chart. You added prefixes. You clapped out syllables. You learned to distinguish between sound and study words. You learned about nouns, verbs, adjectives, adverbs. You received your gold button. You remember that? For reading that word list. You learned multiplication, division, exchanging, Roman numerals, the secret of the 9 multiplication table. You studied Vikings, Columbus, Native Americans, colonial times, and you had Miss Betty's trunk show. And my goodness, you learned how things were done many, many years ago. You learned about trees and leaves and birds and their body structures and habits, dinosaurs, geography, the continents, the oceans, the hemispheres, the poles of the earth, and you learned about the history of Maryland. You studied the water cycle. You learned script. You gave book reports. You wrote stories on computers. You learned parts and the operation of a computer. You learned about French culture and arts, conversational French. Why, I dare say you could go to Paris tonight and order a sumptuous meal for you and your parents. And you learned to listen. Now, all 4 years that you've been here, you've done fabulous artwork. You've learned many songs and poems, some written by Mrs. Walker, as the one today. You've been introduced to many of the classics, fairy tales, folklore in the literature program, and many, many things that I haven't even mentioned. And now you have all of the tools that you need to further your education. Set a goal for yourself and go for it, because you can make it. But always remember Biko's motto. Around his neck, he has a golden ribbon, and it stands for the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. If you follow that in life, you'll get along just fine. Now, I know that all of the teachers here at Primary Day join me in wishing you great success in all that you do, and come back and see us. We shall miss you. Thank you. you very much, but I don't have an encore.
Mrs. Crampton, thank you so much for sharing your memories with us and telling us about all these years at Primary Day and the accomplishments of each grade level. And boys and girls, you've been so fortunate as you've been here these years to have such wonderful teachers to support you. Now it's time to present the class certificates. Would Mrs. Wells please come forward?
Will the first row please stand? Hugh Dunlap. Gray Cohonet. Grace Riley Adams. Erica Witzenberg. Layla Islam. Karen Sinha. Miranda May. Will the second row please stand? Stephen Jaffe. Aaron Slavinsky. Lucy Dix Moreau. Elizabeth Bernhardt. Jeremy Owen. Tiffany Eskandar. Will the third row please stand? Kate Standish. Kyle Colgate. Pamela Steger. center. Max Babashevsky. Emily Hill. What an exciting year this has been. Today is your graduation day, and it couldn't be a more perfect day. You're surrounded by those who love you and who are very proud of you for all your accomplishments and for just being you. Today you begin a new chapter in your life. You are graduates of the Primary Day School, and you move on to brighten the halls of many new and wonderful schools. Graduation is such an inspiring day. It's filled with beautiful speeches and songs. One song that you sang today is particularly noteworthy. We Can Be the Ones. It is filled with words about making a difference in the world, making a difference in life. You are the class that can do that. You are bright, energetic, opinionated, and you love a challenge. You are a can-do class. So I challenge you to move ahead with all your gifts to make a difference in the world, to make the world a better place. I know you can do that. I also know that many of you are reluctant to leave Primary Day and to stretch your wings as Lewis did in The Trumpet of the Swan. That's okay. We all feel a little reluctant at times to leave a cozy nest. But it's kind of like waking up in the morning and going to a new playground. What is so wonderful is that when you come home, it's still home. And Primary Day will always be home for you. And you can come back to visit whenever you wish. And we all hope that will be very often. So, fledglings, spread your wings, reach for new adventures, and always know where home is. I'm very, very proud of you. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mrs. Wells, and congratulations to Mrs. Wells' class. Would Mrs. Wagner please come forward?
First row, please stand. Victoria Bullard. Bonnie Seiler. Bradley Ann Nay. Jonathan Sear. Sam Annis. Rachel Lerner. Will the second row please stand? Rick Harwood. Ethan Free. Lucy Goldberg. Serena Patel. Lindsay Wolf. Ryan Magaziner. Mary Claire Stody. And will the third row please stand? Andrew Moore. Nishta Top. Meredith Plain. written.
Yesterday, before leaving school, I decided to take a few minutes to reflect on our year together. So I sat in my chair and I looked at each one of your pictures. I wanted to have one special memory of each of you, and it was very easy to do. I immediately came up with 20 little memories and 20 adjectives to describe each of you. Creative, comical, athletic, scientific, introspective, gentle, helpful, curious, energetic, musical, talented, mathematical, kind, determined, and the list goes on. I decided, just like Mrs. Plum, that you're just like a rainbow. All the colors are individually different, but when they come together, they make one of the most amazing sights. You have all been amazing to me with your hard work, your determination, and your genuine goodness. I brought my little friend. We all know him. I brought him along to tell you why my favorite word is think. There's a lot more to that word than you think. The T is for trying your best at whatever you do. The H is for heart, because when you put your heart into something, you always end up doing your best. The I is for infinity, because the possibilities are endless when you think. The N is for never giving up on any dream you have. And the K is for the knowledge that it is yours forever when you think and when you do your best. Boys and girls, it's my turn to say thank you to you. Thank you for listening to all my stories, my songs, and my jokes. Thank you for all your hard work. Thank you for all the things that you have taught me. Thank you for saying, "Good morning, Mrs. Wagner," even when you didn't feel like it. Thank you for all those beautiful fuzzy stickers. And thank you for making my job the best one anybody could have. The song that I chose this year to leave you with is one that we all know, because it was written by our friend Mrs. Walker. God never made a rainbow of only one color. He made a gentle curve, blending many with the others. He hung his bow high above, brilliant in the sky. And you have been my brilliant class in so many ways, and I am so very proud of you. Always listen to your moms and dads. Come back and see me. I will miss you. God bless you, children, and thank you for leaving me with such precious memories of our years together. To all the parents of these beautiful children, I'd like to thank you for all your kindness, your support, your confidence, and your commitment to your children. They are really a testament to you. I have so enjoyed my year with them, and I'll always think of them whenever I see a rainbow. It has been a sincere privilege and a pleasure to work with your children, and thank you for sharing them with me. Please do keep in touch and let me know how they're doing, and God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Wagner, and congratulations to Mrs. Wagner's class.
The class of 2001 would like to thank all the teachers that we have had at the primary school.
Each one of you has been important to us at our school. We thank you and we appreciate you.
We'd like to sing a poem called Blanks of Time by Phyllis McGinley. Blanks of time.
Time's peculiar and hardly exact.
Though minutes are minutes, you'll find for a fact. As the older you get and the bigger you grow, that time can hurry like this or plod slow. Waiting for dinner when you're hungry, down with the slippers in your bed. Notice how an hour crawls along, it crawls along. Like a snail with his house upon his head. And when you start gaining apart, it's morning, it's noon, and suddenly it's dark. And hours like seconds rush blurringly by, like a plane in the sky. Our years in primary day, from pre-K to kindergarten to first grade and second grade, pass by quickly. We thank our parents for this opportunity. Now we're off to new schools, new adventures, and new friends. We thank our teachers for our foundation. Will the children please stand and sing our school song, Pico?
Hail to Rico, straight and tall.
to take this opportunity to thank the parents for all you've done for the school over the years that you have been here. It's wonderful to have such a strong support system, and I thank you, and from the depths of my heart, I appreciate you. There are several of our primary day families that are graduating and leaving us today after many years of being here and having children in the school. And I would just like to mention them out on the bulletin board as you come in. There are pictures of the graduates with the listing of the families. And I just thought I would share that with you for those who hadn't seen it. 13 years and 4 graduates later, the Nang family. 12 years and 3 graduates later, the Slewinski family. "11 years and 3 graduates, the Harwood family. 8 years and 2 graduates, the Moore family. And 2 families, 7 years and 2 graduates each, the Plain and Standish families. 6 years and 2 graduates each, the Annis, Patel, and Tok families. 5 years and 2 graduates each, the Riley Adams and Heald families. 5 years and 3 graduates, the Zier family. I would like to thank Mrs. Goldberg and Mrs. Fabishewski for the countless hours of love they spent with scissors and paste in creating the yearbook for the children of the class of 2001. We will soon be passing those yearbooks out, and they're a treasure of memories of your years here at Primary Day. There will be a reception that follows. Because of the weather, we weren't sure with the prediction of thunderstorms what was going to happen, so we've set it up in the hall. It goes down the hall toward the pre-K rooms, and the graduates will stay here for a while, and we will have, when Mrs. Walker plays the march, the first graders will be dismissed to go back to their classrooms for their carpool dismissal. The graduates will stay here, and our guests and parents are invited to the reception. Thank you all for sharing the joy of this very special day with us. Have a wonderful summer.
Yes.